Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the webinar. My name is Kimberly Tucker, and you should have received a few communications from me throughout the past weeks. I'm here to welcome you. I'm the event host, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at DSD. So just want to start off by thanking you for joining us today. With us, we have Danny Martinez, who is our Sage HRMS Field Sales Engineer. We are so excited to have Danny with us. He is a master expert in this product and can really drive the value home of this product integration with Sage 100. So just a few housekeeping things before we get started. I should have given you a communication line to me via email. So if you have any trouble with your GovPub voucher or connections to this event, please feel free to either email or use the chat or questions feature of this webinar. In addition to that, if you see an area of the product or the presentation today and it prompts a question, please also feel free to use the chat so that we can address those in our Q&A portion towards the end of the event hour. Last thing on the list, I have uploaded about 4 handouts that you can reference that speak to the integrations, the product overview, and a couple different modules of the HRMS product. So feel free to download those as takeaways, for today's event as well. And so with that, are you ready for us, Danny?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yep. You sound very clear.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Kimberly, and the DSD team. First thing I'd like to say thank you to everyone joining. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, possibly good late afternoon. Welcome to this Lunch and Learn. Please, if you have nothing to eat right now, by all means, go ahead and grab a quick bite, grab a snack. Have a lot to talk about here today about Sage HRMS for Sage 100. And thank you again for joining and also being a Sage 100 customer, or if you have Sage HRMS. Again, Danny Martinez, I am a field sales engineer. I've been working with Sage now for about 13 years, so I'd like to say I probably know a thing or two about this product here. One second, let me change the slide here. So just a few topics within the webinar agenda today. We'll be talking about the HRMS HCM solution, the core products, what's available in the what we call the HRMS product portfolio. I'd like to share a couple of the HR challenges that we have discovered in 2022. Also, how do the Sage HRMS modules help? Some of the functions that are covered with Sage HRMS. Also, Sage HRMS and Sage 100. We'll also talk about the Sage 100 Payroll link integration. Also talk about the ease of HR and payroll connectivity. And I'll go over a nice high-level product demonstration because, of course, that's why we're all here today, because I'm sure we all want to see what HRMS entails. And we'll leave probably about 10 minutes to have some questions and answers here, a quick session on that. So jumping right in, yes, control, clarity, and connectivity. Yes, I do confirm that. Sage HRMS does deliver that. Sage HRMS is definitely an intuitive and trusted HCM solution within the Sage portfolio. So of course, it eliminates the redundancies of data. It will keep you focused on strategic tasks, example, improving service levels, also developing programs within your organization to maintain and hire and retain the best talent possible. It manages essentially everything, folks. It manages your employee-related information. Everything is under one roof. It's a single, what I like to call the single point of truth. It now centralizes all of your employee data. So all of your historical data, your current information. With Sage HRMS, you now have that single point of truth that houses all of this information. So essentially with this, if you acquire this module, no more scrambling for paper files or, Excel spreadsheets or maybe some other data sets that you have, because within what I like to call this core mothership, all of this information is accessible on demand on the click of a button. Again, it also allows you to focus on strategic tasks and make stronger decisions. It is a highly, let me say this very strong, it is a highly configurable suite. So you can customize your menus, you can customize your processes, you can customize reports. Everything is tailored to fit your needs. You know, when I say highly configurable, the software comes with a lot of the compliance and mandatory moving parts within HR, but of course, within your own HR department in your organization, you know, the software may need to be customized with certain areas. You know, example, maybe company property or uniforms, or maybe you're tracking other data that you want to have in your core module for reporting. That is capable with Sage HRMS. It also gives you unmatched views of your workforce at macro and micro levels, enabling you to securely share the data with executives and managers. So everyone in an organization can essentially have access to this, or also too, if you may want to control some types of securities for other individuals in the organization to access data, we can also create those securities so they don't need to see everything within a software. They just have access to those bits and pieces. Another feature that is a key highlight of this HCM solution is that it ensures government compliance to avoid company risk. So all of your federal, your state, your regulations and reporting requirements, we have that available in Sage HRMS. You can also closely monitor employee records, personnel actions, HR compliance, benefits administration, time off management, of course, reporting, and you do have the capability to import and export data. So in the portfolio for Sage HRMS, we start off with, again, what I like to call the core mothership. Once you have that core mothership in place, you now can open up everything here to all these modules, all of the portfolio modules. So with the core Sage HRMS, you can have an employee self-service portal. We have benefits enrollment. We have time and attendance. We have the My Workforce Analyzer for the Affordable Care Act reporting. Yes, the module is compliant with ACA reporting. We have iRecruit with the applicant tracking. The HRMS core product has the capability of having the train module. We have an alerting mechanism with workflow. We have HR analytics. We have HR actions. We also have a benefits messenger piece, which can send electronic files to your major carriers with changes. And of course, HRMS does have its own payroll module as well. Just to talk about a few of the top 10 HR challenges, and this does come from a 2022 survey from the HR Tech. Seems that 39% of organizations are concentrating on HR insights like data analytics. There's another 39% that are focusing on recruiting and hiring, 36% cloud transformation, modernization of HR systems, or maybe there's nothing in place. 28% looks like learning and development, employee upskilling. 27% retention of key talent. We have another area of 24% of remote or hybrid work. 22% benefits. 19% in diversity and equity and inclusion. It's like another 19% within employee and manager self-service capabilities and 16% compensation. But if you see the big highlights here, 39 data analytics, recruiting and hiring, and even at 36% of getting some kind of cloud transformation or some kind of modernization of HR systems, which I will tell you here today, folks, with this Lunch and Learn, HRMS can make it happen. So how do Sage HRMS modules help? This is a broad view of kind of that pie chart that I showed you earlier, just more in detailed explanation here. The HR core, which is the mothership, this is the main module. If you acquire that module, this is where you can manage all of your employee-related information, all of your processes, from hire to fire, benefit administration, time off PTO plans. You can also manage OSHA records, all of your reporting. Everything is housed in your HR core. Again, that mothership. We also have our HRMS payroll module, but a lot of you on the phone call here today may have that Sage 100, so I will not entertain the HRMS payroll, but just to educate, it does have its own payroll. But the synchronization of the HR core to the Sage 100 module is absolutely wonderful. The employee self-service module. This is the area where all of your employees can access the portal or perhaps go on their smart device, because now everything in HR that you are managing on your employees are now revealed to them in a portal where they can make updates. Maybe they want to see paycheck stubs, time off plans. Maybe you have some third-party custom integrations. It is almost like that company intranet where all of your employees, including managers and supervisors, can now access a web UI to get that information that you now reveal to them. Benefits enrollment, another nice piece. So with the HRMS portfolio, with the benefits enrollment, in the employee self-service portal, you now open up the area for the employees to do a virtual online enrollment. So instead of doing the elections on paperwork or phone calls or, emails or however you're doing it now, which is probably paperwork, instead of having that process, we could replicate that, and now they have it virtually on an online portal. The benefits messenger, another nice piece, because if you're using the benefits enrollment or if you're using HRMS benefits and you're managing, updating, making changes and life events, that tool can now send off the electronic files to the parties that be. So if you're working with Aetna, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, the bigger companies, also some of the smaller ones accept the electronic files. This piece is nice because when the changes are made, it triggers them automatically and they're sent off on a schedule to those providers. So no more manual interaction. We also have the time and attendance. So with the Sage HRMS time and attendance, we have a completely 100% web-based solution that collects everything. Collects time. You can have a web clock. You can have the standard clocks where the time still feeds into the portal. Your employees can request time off. They can schedule changes. The approvals can be done by managers. The admin can approve the final time off. And with the Sage 100 platform, the payroll, that data is now approved and fed into the Sage 100 payroll, which makes life a lot easier because now the time cards are populated with all of that captured time in the timekeeping software. We have HR actions. Wonderful modules. So if you truly want to ditch all of the paperwork, all of the manual processes, pay changes, new hires, terminations, change records, job changes, instead of having a manual process, this is an electronic feature that you go in, whether it's in the ESS portal or if you're going into the HR Actions portal itself, you now have access to paperless forms that are done in an electronic format that now go for an approval process and now update the corresponding areas within HRMS. And it also keeps the repository of the action items, the approvals. HR analytics, another nice web-based reporting. So in the core module, we have all of these wonderful analytics and reports that you can run. However, I no longer need to rely on that because with the HR analytics, I now have a web tool that I can go into where I have snapshots of dashboards and all different kinds of reporting analytics that I can now create within this module. We also have the alerts and workflow. This is another wonderful piece in the portfolio, and I'll show here because I love this piece. I absolutely love the alerts and workflow. This is a nice feature that can notify employee of up and coming events. It can welcome new hires. It can have performance review information. It can tell you if data is missing in certain areas. It can tell you when something has changed. This is one of those modules where I like to call the smoke detector, or we should have, how would we have known? In other words, this alerting mechanism gives you the heads up of what's going on, of any potential issues within the organization. We also have the applicant tracking and onboarding. So within the iRecruit, we have another web-based tool where you can manage your recruiting and onboarding. This feature is wonderful because if you are posting out to the job boards, or if you have a company career site, this can be embedded in there. When your candidates apply, you now can have that candidate interview throughout the entire organization. You can score them, you can look at their resumes, you can schedule interviews, you can do offer letters, you can even have some onboarding information if you'd like. The biggest part here is that when you hire the employee, that candidate, that employee data now comes into HRMS and creates the record for you. And with the Sage 100 Payroll, it will now push into the Payroll module as well. It would be a seamless talk. Also, the My Workforce Analyzer. We do have out of the box with the premium Sage HRMS, it does come with the My Workforce Analyzer, which now allows you to generate the compliance forms for the ACA reporting. Both sides of the house, the 1094C and the 1095 for the employees. And if you have Atrix, you can have them print, mail, and e-file on behalf. So all you're doing is generating, looking at the reporting, and securely sending the data over the net to Atrix. HRMS also has the capability of what we call the training module. So if you're looking to manage all of your classes, courses, required courses, job requirements, so on, you can manage that information in the HRMS train module. So here are some of the functions that are covered with a lot of those bits and pieces there. Your service delivery across the board is covered. So your employee self-service, your manager self-service, your help desk, your core HR, you have your benefits administration, employee records, you may have the payroll, but also you have the Sage 100 payroll. You have onboarding information and also your compliance. Workforce management, time and attendance, labor scheduling, you have leave management, workforce optimization, workforce planning, workforce analytics. Your talent and management, you now have a recruiting piece, you have performance, you have compensation, you have learning, you have talent analytics. On the roadmap, we may have some succession planning coming in, but I will tell you with the analytics, succession planning is possible. We have reporting within the analytics. We have visualization and also BI tools. So these are some of the available features in Sage HRMS and also the ISVs that we have in our portfolio. And kudos to a lot of our ISVs because a lot of these modules and these functions are fully covered with these integrated products. Just to educate here, yes, there is a faster and simpler way to integrate HR with Sage 100 Payroll. It makes it easier for your HR team now to connect and manage everything. So everything is your single, again, that single point of truth in HR. And now when we talk about the Sage 100, there is a nice utility that transfers the data from HRMS into Sage 100 Payroll. Also too, from government compliance to centralizing all current and historic employee information, Sage HRMS, and I will say this firmly, Sage HRMS will improve your HR efficiency. It also integrates and streamlines all of your HR processes, and now you can focus on all of your day-to-day processes because you have a single point of truth in place. Sage 100 Payrolling provides an integration with the two systems. So essentially what happens here with the Sage 100 Payroll link, it delivers an automatic data integration with Sage HRMS. So what it does is it shares information. So if you have the Sage 100 Payroll in place and you acquire the HRMS, we would take the current setup information from Sage 100, bring it into HRMS, and moving forward, you would put everything in HRMS, which now updates payroll. It eliminates duplicate data entry. So when employee settings and data fields are populated in Sage 100, again, it's brought in and all future addition and changes are updated and entered into Sage HRMS to avoid that duplicate entry. It reduces error. So once you transfer the employee updates from Sage HRMS to 100, you can run reports. So it's not a guessing game. It's not, oh, what's going over there. There's audit reports. So at least the person on the payroll side sees what's coming into payroll. They have a log of, oh, look, new hire. Oh, look, pay change. Oh, look, deduction information changes, address changes. All of that is in a report prior to it coming. You can have an audit report that you can view prior to coming into the 100. Manage your employee records in a single solution. So again, everything under one roof. So all of your employee records in Sage HRMS and are quickly transferable information to Sage 100 Payroll. You also have automatic deduction and earning updates. So you're able to automatically create, inactivate, and update payroll employee deductions and earnings associated with HR benefit plans, employee elections, and premiums. And I'll show you this a little bit here because I'm going to talk a lot about this here when I show you the core module. quickly transfer your employee absence. So the employee absence transaction managed in HRMS. Time off can also be transferred to the Sage 100 payroll. And folks, it's an easy setup. So when the payroll link is set up, there's a couple of steps. We have to map employers. We have to map some other information to make it work. But once we populate all of this information, you now have that seamless integration from HR to payroll. Again, a faster and easier connection between HR and payroll. Once you start using Sage 100 Payroll Link, just HR now becomes the king of the house, or I could say queen of the house as well too. So I'll be fair here. So they are the hierarchy. So that is where once this is in place, everything moving forward will happen in HRMS. Everything is widget driven in HRMS. I'll show you that as well. But all of your employee information, HRMS is now your primary system for your employee information. So all of your entering of your new hired employees and maintaining existing employee information, and Sage HRMS is now transferred into the Sage 100 database. In HRMS, you have a payroll setup detail page. So you can start setting up some of that information in the HRMS core. Also too, job and labor codes. So the labor codes help you to identify the type of work performed by each employee. So with the Sage 100 payroll link, the job codes in Sage HRMS to the 100 payroll labor codes, you can have that mapped appropriately. You also generate audit reports to verify the codes as well. Tax information fields. Fields are updated from HR to payroll to support federal override withholding tax. You also have the transferring of employee updates. And I know I keep stressing this a lot, but this is where the true integration is, team. That 100 payroll link transfer, it's exceptional because every time you make a change in HR, again, whether you're adding new employees or if you're updating existing employee information, the transfer happens from HR to payroll. And also too, one of the biggest points here is the transferring of the payroll history. So after the payroll is processed, you can use the Sage 100 payroll link to transfer the pay history within a date range, but your final result will be in the employee self-service. They now have the pay history area. So that final result, when you're running the payroll, you can use the payroll link to publish those pay history information or stubs in the ESS portal. And I'll show that as well. So enough of me talking here. Let me go ahead and minimize. I'd like to show you the product here. So folks, I am logged in here as the HRMS master user. I'm probably the admin in your organization or maybe perhaps even the HR director. When you're logged in as a master user, you now essentially have access to area within the software. This view that I'm looking at here is my active and my leave of absence employee roster. I truly appreciate this software because I can manage all of my terminated employees and other employees as well. I may have some seasonal employees. But the nice part is that you have access to all of this information. You have the complete employee count. You can export this information to Excel. You can personalize this information. So whoever logs in, they can customize their view. But the nicest part is when you hop in to the record, what we call the HRMS core, when I add these new hires to this widget, or if I'm using a paperless form, this is all the data that's being captured in a wizard, in an interview process. It's almost like doing your taxes online. You enter the data, next, it records, next, till you get your final result, and this is the capture here. These are all the moving parts that I'm capturing: current pay information, current job information. A lot of this data is also going into your Sage 100, especially these pay rates, pay frequencies. This is where I was telling you, you could start the Sage 100 payroll setup. So out of the box, you can start the payroll status. The screen may look familiar, but it is now available in HRMS. This does come a part of the core module. This is a part of the integration here. Not only is it capturing this information, but of course, the nuts and bolts, the demographic data, address and phone number information. This is also being fed over when you're hiring the employees, or if you're making a change into Sage 100. Personal information, social security numbers, EEO reporting, marital status, gender information, gender identity. It is fully compliant. You control the photos of your employees. You also have snapshots of the HR status. So when you're hiring, you have all of your original, last, adjusted seniority, time off service dates. You have your employment eligibility, your I-9s, maybe you have to capture visas, you have the documentation associated to it. You also have an area in your core record now where you can track employee events. So this is something that the Sage 100, I think in 100 you may have a custom field where you can add this in. However, now that you have a HRMS core module, the events area comes out of the box. These events will be defined according to your events. So if you have training, publications, certifications, this is the area where I wish I would have known, where now you're going to know because you can define the event, you have an effective and a next due date, and now the software is smart enough with the alerting mechanism to send out heads up alerts. Hey, you got training coming due, your driver's license is coming due. You may have drivers that need that email alert. Hey, your driver's license is coming due, or you have a certification coming due that it's a job requirement. It could be one of those modules that annoys you with reminder email alerts, or even perhaps a text message. So this is what I call the smoke detector, where you define it, you give it an effective and next due, you give it a code. You may just want to manage it here and run a report. However, you have a corresponding email alert that can be delivered to your employees. Your HR core is also your repository, so you can attach employee documentation. It doesn't necessarily have to be HR information. Maybe you want some payroll information here as well. But I track I-9s, resume, OSHA certificates, licenses, employment applications, everything lives in here. I don't run to a filing cabinet. I don't open another file. I just download it right through the software. You also have contact information. So God forbid something happens, you have a first and secondary contact. So these areas do come out of the box. Another nice feature in the HR core that is a nice integration to Sage 100 is the insurance benefits. So I have my organization's benefit rules set up in my HRMS core. So all of my company paid lives, my dental plans, PPOs, flexible dependent cares, vision, everything is here defined in my core record. I can detail the core record, and I'm able to see the benefit plan, the coverages, maybe they waived it, or eligible dates. I can see the cost and coverage. This area here, when you start making updates, or if there's an open enrollment, a life event, or if you're doing a change to benefits, this is another piece that can integrate with the Sage 100 payroll into your deduction codes. So you're capturing the change here in HR. It creates a historical record. And now when you synchronize to Sage 100, you no longer have to key in that amount, because if we truly have this mapped and talking to Sage 100, that'll flow in with that utility, that payroll link that I was explaining to you about. You can manage covered dependents. You can also manage your savings benefits. So again, your 401k savings plans can be managed here in HRMS. I have a 401k. I also have a 401k catch-up. Same idea. You have the benefit plan data. You also have the contribution. And if you truly have this talking to the 100 payroll, if you make a change here, we can also have this updating the dead code in payroll. So again, this reduces a lot of the manual processes. You enter it into one area, and now it's updating and talking to your payroll software. By the way, this is the dependents and beneficiaries area. So this is where in HR, you have the insurance benefits, the savings benefits, but you also have the dependents and beneficiaries, and you have a wellness area out of the box as well too. Maybe you're tracking COVID information or conditions, physical exams, drug tests. You can even have the attachments. I have my COVID card in here. You can manage that in HR. So real quick, before I jump into the employee experience, I want to share a little story on how I implemented this for a Sage 100 payroll customer. But real quick, out of the box, the Sage HRMS core does come with a time off. So if you're looking to manage your PTO balances, you can. We would create the rule. You can have seniority levels attached to the rules. You can have lump sums, accruals. You can have some carryover information, but you're managing the plan. I have 4 different ones here. You manage the effective and expiration, carryover, accrued, taken. All of this information is sitting and living in HR. And if you're manually creating an absence transaction, it will deduct according to the plan. Or if you're using the employee self-service portal, why not reveal this to them in a portal or on their smart device saying, hey, I got this balance. Let me go ahead and request the time off, which now goes for approval to a manager. So instead of me manually creating a transaction, the software is smart enough, once that approval is done, it'll create the transaction here in HR, which now could potentially be a transaction that passes over to Sage 100. So another area that comes out of the box with HRMS, we would just have to define your plans. Another nice area that my Sage 100 customers like is the ability of tracking OSHA and workers' compensation. So out of the box, you can manage that data and it is fully compliant. So you have all of the corresponding compliant areas, including attachments for OSHA. You have the same thing with workers' compensation. The nice part is that you can report against this information. So it doesn't just live here. There are compliance reports. There's one particular one that you can get over to OSHA. It's an uploadable format, creates a file that you can upload to OSHA. You also have career information, so skills, education, previous employer, you can create custom details. All of this is out of the box with Sage HRMS, the premium Sage HRMS. Just to quickly show you too, in the connected services, I know I've been talking about that payroll link a lot, but this is, when you buy the core mothership, this HRMS core, the 100 payroll link, it's comes with the software. Again, it's just a quick setup. You also have the Sage 100 Premium GL Export. So these 2 items come with the core record. There's no extra fee to purchase this. It does come out of the box. We would just need to do a quick setup and map it over to Sage 100, because everything that I was talking to you about here that is a part of the synchronization will be configured here in the payroll link. Another feature too is that my workforce analyzer. So I know I spoke about the ACA reporting. This is the module that will make that happen. When you launch this, it opens up another web UI where you could generate the forms for your organization. You pick the year, you generate the forms, you have the 1094C, which is the employer, and then you also have the 1095C, which is the employee-facing part of the compliance. You would use the preparer, which can now send the forms over to the company Atrix, which I'm sure some on the phone here are using it now for payroll. If you added in the ACA package, they would now print, mail, and e-file on your behalf. So that takes the burden off of anybody doing ACA reporting. Nice part is too, is with the Sage 100 payroll, using the My Workforce Analyzer, and being that I have the HR benefits managed here in HRMS, when I run this utility, a lot of the information is already pre-populated for me. I don't have to key in any of the information. I have it set up with all my codes. I could literally generate the forms, maybe look at the data, make sure everything looks good, and send it off to Atrix. Let me share a quick story on what I did for one of my Sage payroll customers here. They came to me, they said, you know, Danny, I have this wonderful payroll solution. However, I have no HR. Everything is all over the place. I got paperwork. I'm getting emails, phone calls. I have nowhere for my employees to go. I have no welcome to my employees. So, you know, I created a solution for her, including this core module that when, by the way, she has 450 employees. So just think about the paperwork. When I showed her the solution and I showed her the HRMS, she already had Sage 100 payroll. I showed her that when you come in here and you add a new hire and you create the record, what I have in my organization is a nice email alert that goes like this to my employees. So once I create the record in HR, I now have this email alert going out. It's an automatic thing. It's on the back end. This is the alerts and workflow. So I hired my employee. I have this welcome email. Hi, Joyce. As a part of your journey here with Sage, I need these documents. This is my welcome email. I have the link to my employee self-service. I have a couple of navigation tips. Thank you. I am the VP. This can be customized. So this is not a canned. It is customizable, so it's not a canned message. So this can be according to your organization's welcome email. Once this employee gets this, hey, welcome aboard, they click that link. They have access to the premium employee self-service. Being that I hired that record, that employee can first-time user register on their own. I don't have to get IT involved. I don't need anybody involved. This is already configured, waiting for them to create their credentials and authenticate back with their social security number, maybe create some questions for them for security. Once they create that, this employee can now log in. And when I say log in, it could be on your network, on campus, or if you're truly wanting your employees to do this from home, you can securely open up a port and you can allow them to use it from home like I am doing here right now. So all of that stuff that I was just showing you in the core record, I am now revealing to them here in the premium ESS. The nice part about this here that this customer liked was that employees can log in and they can view, but they can update HR information, address, phone numbers, email addresses. Look how nice it is with the quick links. They can also do this on their smart device. So easy, it's so modern. Come in, fill out the data, let it go for approval. The manager or the supervisor, or maybe the HR guy or gal gets the email alert. They approve it. No more having to print this out and write it down, because once I approve this, it now refreshes the core database. And a lot of this information lives in payroll. So once I update the core, when I synchronize the payroll, it's also going to update payroll. Phone number information, email addresses, emergency contacts. This is a lot of the stuff that I was showing you in the core. So now this organization that I showed this to, they ditched the paperwork. The employees now come in online, they self-serve, and they update this information. You don't necessarily have to have it to where it goes for an approval. You may want it to auto refresh. So if you have that trust and confide, you can shut this off. And once they refresh and update the information, it'll refresh the HRMS core. Another feature that I worked with in that organization was benefit information. They were using a third party. It was a website. It was really not that intuitive. But being with the HRMS Premium, being that I'm managing the benefits in HR, I now reveal the benefit information, the current benefits, here in the online portal. So I have my total deduction that comes out. I have my employer's total deduction. By the way, you can shut that off if you don't want them to see it. I just like it because I like my employees to see that I'm paying the chunk of the cost. You have all of your benefit plans. When you detail them, it shows you your beneficiaries and your dependents. One of the biggest things with that employer, that organization, was the opportunity of doing an open enrollment. So again, another nice feature, when you have the Sage 100 payroll, now that you're managing the benefits in HRMS and you have this open enrollment, the employees have a guided wizard. They also have a benefit summary. Very intuitive, very straightforward. They can make their elections online. Once this is completed, this information goes for approval. It now updates the benefits in the core record. If you have the benefits messenger, that'll be triggering those files to the carriers. But at the same time, once you refresh the records in HRMS, this is now transferable to the deduction codes in payroll. Now you have that seamless talk. This made things, for 450 employees, this made things a lot more efficient for this organization. Also, too, was employment. So with the Sage 100 payroll, this was a big player in this game here, was the pay history. So however you're doing it now with the Sage 100 payroll, maybe using Print Boss, or if you're doing something else, or however you're getting those stubs, the history to your employees, that essentially can go bye-bye, because now that you have the ESS portal, the employees can now hop in and view the historical data and also any of the recent pay stubs with the period start and end dates, check numbers, hours, wages paid, deductions, taxes. If they hit it, it also details the check stub. So this is a wonderful area, worked wonderfully for the Sage 100 customer of mine. They had a nightmare with one of their third party trying to get this information. I don't know the name of it exactly, but when she rolled this out, the phone call stopped into payroll, and they also stopped into HR, because now over the weekend, anytime during the week, 24 hours a day, if you're allowing them access to this, they have access. Listen, everybody goes into their paycheck stubs. I mean, not me several times a week, but there are some people that go in several times a week. They may need it for historical purposes, or they're applying for a mortgage, or they're applying for a car loan or something. It's over the weekend. They need it now. They can't wait. Hop into the portal. You have the data right here. So another huge benefit for Sage 100 payroll customers. In the employment menu, it does come with a lot of different areas. So you do have job information. You can reveal compensation. So a lot of this is areas out of the box. Another key highlight for my Sage 100 payroll that they don't have an HR solution is onboarding information. And when I say onboarding, checklist information, maybe you're filling out W-4s, I-9s, some onboarding data confirmation. This was another huge area within that organization I'm telling you about, that they had nothing for onboarding. In the Sage Employee Self-Service, you can now have your employees do what we call an HR action item. And when I say HR action item, look at the different checklists that I have here. I have action items for onboarding. I have action items for company training, performance reviews, acknowledgements, and maybe even offboarding. They gave you a 2-week notice. Maybe there's some documentation you need them to fill out. Maybe you got to get some company asset back, a phone, uniform, maybe some company car keys. Everything could be listed in an offboarding checklist. However, let's just act like this was an onboarding. The employee can come in and fill out a data confirmation. They can fill out an I-9. They can fill out the W-4, direct deposit information. Maybe you want them starting some annual goals. It is a nice feature, because when they go into the electronic form, it loads. Let me just hit that form again. So this is the I-9. It is fully compliant. It does pre-populate with the employee information. They can upload their documentation. They can start data entering, which will now start filling out their form, these fields. What's truly nice about these forms in HR is the routing sequence. I have this going to the HR manager. Maybe you have it going to somebody else in an organization that handles the I-9. W-4 may go to the payroll guy or gal. The managers and supervisors also have access to some of these forms in a library where they could do pay changes. They can make notations on employee records. They can change supervisors. They can start a termination process. Or if you're even allowing them to hire them, you can give them access to what we call a new hire form. But this right here, when I tell you complete lifesaver and efficiency within HR, this changed my customers' view within their HR department. Now that they have a single point of truth and they have all these moving parts, everything is seamless. When you have happy employees, the production level increases, and I'll leave it at that. I know me as an employee, when I work for an organization, I don't want to have to be sending or making phone calls, sending emails, or calling here and calling there. It's just a cluster. I want to be able to hop into a portal and get the data that I need, looking at these areas, filling out forms, looking at benefits, looking at paycheck stubs, coming in and maybe requesting time off. I have everything at my fingertip. So this right here, for all of you on the phone that have Sage 100 Payroll, I highly recommend this core module. Guys, mine is super customized, so I track a lot of information, but outside of the core module, I have other custom content. But this is very intuitive software for my Sage 100 Payroll customers. You put this in place, everything starts here first. You have a single point of truth. Your employees have a portal to go onto. Paycheck stubs are there, maybe some of your onboarding forms and paperwork, updating information. Everything is a seamless talk now. Another thing I'd like to point out quickly is in the portfolio, you also have the time and attendance piece. So if you're not using the HRMS time off where you just manage balances, if you have a critical requirement right now in your organization where you need a true timekeeping module, we do have something called the Sage HRMS time and attendance where they have time off management, but the employees can also fill out time cards. The employees are also able to punch in and punch out on a web clock. There is an app involved as well. Managers and supervisors can see real-time dashboards of how much time is being applied to what job. Maybe some overtime is involved. There's approvals. The biggest integration is the Sage 100. So instead of keying those time cards right now in Sage 100 Payroll, if you have the HRMS time and attendance, which could be a single sign-on right here in the ESS portal, it'll make life a lot easier because you're capturing the time there, approving it, and seamlessly bringing it into the time card into 100 Payroll. And then when you run that payroll, of course, you'll have access to those nice pay history stubs. So team, I'm going to stop right here real quick. I know I have talked a lot. I hope lunch is going great, but I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions. And then I want to go ahead and bring my friend on the line here.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Danny. I mean, I think I actually love, you telling us those use cases. I think that drives it home even beyond the product demonstration. So thank you for sharing both sides of the story here. And so we have gotten a few questions through. One of them was pretty early on in your presentation. The question is, does the labor hours piece integrate with operations management for job work tickets?
Job work tickets. May I ask someone on the phone if they can answer that? I know somewhat about it, but I don't know if perhaps Jenny, by any chance, if I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know anything on that by any chance?
I don't. I'd have to do some research.
Okay, I'm gonna be safe as well too. And if you don't mind, let me put that question on Park because I don't want to say yes and it's a no. So if you don't mind, let me put that on Park.
Sure, and that's with Sage Operations Management. That is, a little deeper than maybe we have consultants on the phone now. So we'll go ahead and research that for our attendee and get back to you the right answer.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, the next was regarding employee records. Is there the ability to manage terminated employee records?
Oh, absolutely. Real quick, let me bring up my screen. Hopefully they're still on the call. Let me cancel out of here. The nice part with the HRMS core record is the way the subscription works is that it looks at anybody, oops, wrong area. It looks at anybody at active and leave of absence, but you can have, okay, screen, come on here. You can have all the terminated records you want. So in my company, I don't have many terminated records, but absolutely, you can manage the terminated records. You have all of the historical information. The nice part about it too is that you and I both know sometimes these terminated people come back, they reapply. There's a nice widget in HRMS to rehire the employee and reinstate them in HR, which can now potentially reinstate them in payroll. So yes.
Cool. Software's so cool. Another one is about the ESS portal.
Sure.
Can employees get to the portal outside of the actual software?
So in my world, I have, so when you install it within your organization's network, you'll have a particular web link to it. So you'll establish that web link, and now you could publish that to your employees so they'll be able to log in from the portal. Excuse me, at home from the portal or on their smart device as well. So it's a link.
Oh, perfect. And that kind of answers this next question. Is HRMS cloud-based?
So good question. So everything I'm showing you here today is an on-premise software. The ESS is also on-premise. It requires, your web server. It is all SQL backend. However, mine particularly here, yes, it is an on-premise, but you can have it hosted so you can make it feel like cloud. So I encourage both. So if you're going to put it on your network, it is an on-premise. However, I do encourage DSD to perhaps point customers on getting it hosted. But yes, it is an on-premise software.
Perfect. Yeah, and we do have a Sage Cloud solution hosting piece called Sage Partner Cloud. So that sounds like the answer. The short answer is yes. The long answer is, like Sage 100, it's an on-premise beginning.
Yeah.
So,
perfect.
Great.
Yeah, I have a lot of 100 customers that use the 100 payroll, and even the entire 100 ERP that acquire HRMS that are already on cloud right now. They're being hosted. So when they add this, they acquire the HRMS core, they just install it, wherever they have it hosted, and then they connect the two databases.
Perfect. Right, and that actually sort of segues into our next question, which is about implementation. How does HRMS work if you already have Sage 100? And
that is Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm trying to explain the question in more of a detailed way, but yeah, it's just how does implementation work?
Sure. So with the Sage Payroll link, again, that comes with the core module. So if you already have the Sage 100 payroll with that tool, the utility, it'll take the necessary data out of Sage 100. It transfers it into HRMS. And now moving forward, the HRMS becomes the single point of truth that talks to payroll. So that utility is wonderful because it transfers the data. First initial data set comes in, and then moving forward, everything will go into payroll. So it's a simple process. But of course, the utility would have to be set up. It would have to be mapped according to employers and earnings and deductions and so on. So there is a simple setup to make it happen.
Perfect. Great. Another question actually relates to not using Sage 100 payroll. The question is, can Sage HRMS integrate with a third-party payroll provider like Ceridian? I think that's how you say that. Ceridian.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. So Ceridian is a big payroll company. I do have customers that use Ceridian and do use HRMS. However, there's export templates. So perhaps the HRMS link or some kind of custom report. Yes. Is it something that I can go in here right now and show you that I could push a button? No. It will have to be a part of an implementation setup, a custom report, or maybe some kind of link to get the information over to Ceridian. There is a template out of the box with the HRMS link for ADP. So it would kind of be similar with that. We would have to look at the data that Ceridian is looking for and create that export that you're looking for. But it can happen, yes.
Perfect. Great answer. Yeah, especially with major providers like ADP and stuff like that. This is a standalone HCM solution as well. So it's just really awesome to have the payroll integration.
Yeah, the HRMS link, I didn't mention that. So it does come with the payroll link, and it also comes with you have a live data set, and then you have your sample data set, but you also have what we call the Sage HRMS link. So a lot of this HR data like Ceridian and ADP, we can create export templates to get that data over to them in whatever their file format they require. So.
Perfect. Nice little patch.
Sure.
Great.
All right, let me bring my friend up here. And I am going to open the floor here to Abe Plummer, kind of do an introduction here and maybe last remarks.
Yep, that's perfect.
Thanks, Danny. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone again for joining. Thanks for staying hopefully to the end here of the webinar. We're very excited to be able to bring this content to you. Hopefully there's a lot of Sage 100 users out there many of which I would imagine probably are not that familiar with this platform and ultimately all the functionality that we can really bring forth. Obviously, as Danny alluded to before, you don't have to be a Sage 100 user. You don't have to be a Sage 100 payroll user, obviously, to be able to use HRMS. But the focal point today was really just to show a bit of the functionality as Danny demonstrated, but also to speak to the relationship between HRMS and Sage 100 along with Sage 100 payroll. Many times when I have dialogue, because DSD, of course, we're a master developer for Sage 100, so there's a lot that we've done from a custom enhancement standpoint. And a lot of times we get questions from people that are using Sage 100 and you know, they don't have the capability of doing things like allowing employees to be able to pull pay stubs, doing so electronically through like a self-service portal. And it's really the little things that that I think when we have these discussions and bring forth a solution like this, I think that's what really opens people's eyes, that there's just a better way to do it. And one of the things I'll certainly say, and we would love to have additional conversations. So of course, please take down my contact info. We'd love to be able to carve out time to do have more dialogue and do one-on-one demos as well, so we can focus on your particular needs. Because one thing that it's hard to put in a 45-minute demo, if you will, of the content. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion, but there's so much more that this product can do. It's very, very robust. We really just, this is kind of a high-level overview. So we would love to have the opportunity to show you what it can do in a specialized way for your particular business needs. So in closing, I would really just like to thank everyone and certainly say, as you've seen this, if there's any aspect of what you've seen today that you have any sort of additional interest in, obviously we would love to talk to you, be able to share information with you. If it's a situation where you just want to get a little bit more understanding to your specific needs, as I alluded to, we're happy to do that. If you want to get into a very specialized demo just for your industry and your organization, you want to get pricing, talk about implementation, and really get into feature functionality and all those different things, we're more than happy to do so, myself and my colleagues here in our HCM division at DSD. So I thank you all, and I hope to be speaking with you soon. And I'll pass it back to Kimberly. Thank you.